the faces that I'm going to make with you. The first you can see is quite easy. The second's got a little bit more shaping to the mouth, and the tricky features on the advanced face are for if you feel that you want to go just that little bit further. But they all start in exactly the same way. So if I start with the basic face, the way that we begin this is going to be the same for all the other faces. And I start with a weighing scale. Now I've used the weighing scale throughout the lesson because that way it'll help you get the proportions right with all your figures. And I've weighed out, this is really easy to use, 15 grams of flesh colour, and I've rolled it into a ball. And the thing about rolling fondant is in order to get that fondant where you've got the no lines and it's all nice and smooth, you actually need to get it a little bit warm. And the trouble with that is that once it's that warm, sometimes it's a little bit tricky to model. And so sometimes it's nice to just get that nice smoothness. So make sure that you've got rid of all of your lines. And once you've done that, if you find that it's a little bit too soft, just leave it out a little while, maybe just a few minutes, and you'll get that stickiness will go away and you'll find it a little bit easier to model. So here we go, I've got that basic round shape. I'm now just going to use the palm of my hands and I'm going to slightly oval shape it. There you go, like an egg. And we're going to do this, like I say, for all of the faces, just the same. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the edge of my finger to create the shape for the eyes. Now you can see that's going to help me to know what's going on my face and where it's all going. And I'm going to do the same for the chin. I'm just going to press down the chin. So all I've done so far is give myself the basic shape of where things are going. There we go. Then I'm going to stick it in my head former. And you see the way that we made the head former, we kept this little bit low for the chin. So I'm going to pop it in exactly where I want it to be in order to create that chin shape. So that's nice and simple. So the first thing we're going to add is the nose. Now, if you feel that you don't want to make some tricky shaping moves, all you can do to make it a little bit easier is take a tiny little blob of fondant, really small, and just add a little bobble nose, and that will give you the idea of where to be. In fact, that's way too big. There we go. Let's have a tiny, tiny piece. It really only takes a little tiny piece, and you can add it on. If it's not sticking, you can use a little bit of water, because when you have soft fondant, or in my case, the modelling paste mix, that will stick perfectly with water. There we go. So if you feel that you want to be a little bit more adventurous, we're going to make a little bit of a button nose, but we're going to do it by shaping it with a shaping tool. Now, the shaping tool that I've got is called a Dresden tool, and there are various styles of Dresden tool, various ends, and all you need to do is find the soft end and use it to pull in your fondant to create a nose. Now I do this slowly, there's no need to do it quickly, and all you're doing is slowly you're pulling the shape of that face. So there's the eyes, there's the chin, and we're just pulling in enough fondant to make a little button nose. So what you want to do is go back and forth, just drawing in a little bit of fondant from each side until you create a tiny little button. There we go. Okay. I'm now going to just pull it in a little bit more to form that nose shape. So you can see there's already a little bit of fondant there, or modelling paste, that I've pushed up. And all I'm doing now is getting that excess, that little bump, and teasing it into a little button nose. There we go. And you can use your finger to smooth it a little bit, but that's all you need, because actually a cute little button nose makes for a cute little face. So once we've got that shape and we know where it is, so we've now got our eyes. So I'm just going to accentuate. I do this all the time, making sure that I've got the eyes in the right place, the nose is starting to come up. It's all very gentle. And now the last thing I'm going to do on the shape of the face is just accentuate this chin, and there's nothing cuter than a little pixie chin. So look at the way I'm just using my forefinger and my thumb to bring that in a little bit, and the cradle has already given me the head shape nicely, so that's all I have to do, and I'm not rushing it. There we go. Okay, so now I can pop that back in the cradle, and I'm happy that I've got two eyes, a chin, and a little nose. And that really is as hard as the face shape's going to get for this. Then we get to the fun bit. I'm going to use this, which is a frill tool, to just make two eyes. So just start to get a little eye for the triangle between the two eyes and the nose. So I do this very tentatively so that I can see what I'm doing. There, I'm just going to put a tentative little dot. And when I'm happy that that looks a little bit even, I can then use this frill tool to create a little bit of a hole for the eyes. And you can see it hasn't taken as much, but we've already got to a face shape. And all I'm going to do to put the eyes in is use these little black dragies. Now these are little sugar balls that you can buy. The only thing about the ones that I get is often they're very different sizes, so I tend to take a few out and make sure I get a matching pair that are a similar size. So I've got two there. And all I'm going to do is use a little bit of sugar glue. You've got all the information about sugar glue in your notes, in your class materials. There we go. And once I've done that, all I have to do is pop these little balls in, and instantly we've got the makings of a cute little face. And then if I take it out, I usually spend a little bit of time just making sure it's all even and everything's where I want it to be. And we're nearly there. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do once I'm happy with the face shape is put some ears on. So there we go. So basic face. I'm just going to take a tiny little bit of modelling paste, really small. Now this is the little trick. Whenever you're doing something that requires two ears, two legs, two arms, the easiest way to do it is to start with a ball and to split it in two to get those proportions. Look, it's so tiny. So I'm just going to grab a scalpel and chop this in two. There we go. And I'm going to make each one of these into a tiny ball, and I'm just going to put them on at the same time. I tend to do this at the same time just to make sure that I get them straight. And I'm just going to grab a bit of sugar glue. This is the same stuff that you'll see in your class materials. It's a mixture of Tylo powder and water. And I'm just going to dab a tiny bit on either side of the face and put my two little ears on. So I'm just going to make sure they're central together. And the trick to doing this is not to try and rush it, because I've now got two ears on, and I'm going to, if you can see the way that ears go, I'm going to leave the top part normal and I'm going to press down the bottom part so it's almost formed a little bit of a teardrop shape. There we go. And I'm actually going to leave that for a little while. If I go to try and shape that now, it's so soft and they've only just been stuck on, so they probably slip around a little bit. So I just make things a little bit easy and wait, not too long, just a few minutes, just until they've stuck a little more firmly, and then I shape them. Now I just left it a little while just to make it tacky, just so that when I start to shape it, it's not going to slip around. And now I always start on the left ear because I'm right-handed and I struggle to match things up if I start on the other side. And I turn it upside down because what I want to do is support the back of the ear, which I'm doing with my finger, whilst I just press in a tiny bit with my Dresden tool, and that's it. There you go. And because I've done that side, I can now do the other side, and I'm going to use my finger this time, my forefinger, to do the same thing on this side. So I've got two little ears, and just make sure they're nice. Now if I hadn't waited just that second after I glued them on, they would have slipped around instead of pressing in. So that's perfect. So there we go, that's our basic face. And what I then do is just make sure that it's all nice and even and smoothed out. And at this point, because the modelling paste has started to harden up just a little bit, it's actually keeping its shape nicely and allowing me to smooth it off without shifting around and becoming warped. So there we go. And that is now going to dry because I'm going to paint or draw the features on this face, and that's much better done when this is all dry. So here we have one that I've done earlier. I'm going to use a cradle to help me. And so this is at the stage we left the other one, but it's solid and it's dry. And because it's solid and it's dry, all I have to do is use a little bit of This is all edible markers. You can get these anywhere. Some are better than others, I'll admit. You can paint if you feel that you've got a steady hand. I'm just going to use these markers because they're easy. And again, because of the way that I operate, I find doing the left-hand side easier for me. So here we go. I'm just going to put a few little eyelashes in and then try and match them up on the other side. There we go. I tend to put 2 for a boy, 3 for a girl. There is no rule to it, but everyone loves a little eyelash. This is a little bit dry. You do sometimes find they're a bit dry. There we go. Now, if you make a mistake, quite a useful thing to know is that you can use vodka or alcohol to wipe away some of your mistakes. So I've got a little bit of vodka here, and I'm all ready to pretend I've made a mistake, and I'm going to use it just to brush away. There you go. Can you see how very simply it's already brushed away the marker that I've put on? There we go. So that means I've got a clean sheet to start again if I've ever made a mistake. When we do the later classes, you'll see that we use other methods to do eyelashes, which you can also use obviously with these faces if you prefer. So a little bit of, I'm going to wait for that one to dry obviously, but a little bit of red for the lips. There we go. And I think we'll have some black eyebrows. There we go. There we go. So that's the method of doing it. Obviously I'm going to wait for the vodka, but once mine's dry, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And we end up with an easy face. If you want to add a little bit of a finishing touch, a little bit of colour, I sometimes use petal dusts, and these are little powders that come in all sorts of colours, and you can use these just to brighten up your figures. I take some cornstarch. This usually waters it down a little bit because sometimes I find that it's so strong that it creates streaks. So by just diluting it a little bit with cornstarch, it can end up being a little more gentle and blended. And all I'm going to do is take a tiny, tiny bit of this powder. I need to make sure it's only a little amount. And I'm just going to put a tiny splodge on the cheeks just to give it a little bit of a lift. And that's it.